Isolated gambling clubs existed on Highway 91 before 1941, but the concept of a full-scale resort with overnight accommodations, gaming, dining, entertainment, and shopping all in one vacation destination wasn't conceived as something anyone would want in the harsh desert climate. The El Rancho not only offered something Highway 91 had never seen, it set a precedence by creating a themed vacation destination that would shape what would later become the Las Vegas Strip.
Back in 1938, Hitler was rising to power in Germany. Walt Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the first full-length animated movie, was released. Superman appeared for the first time in Action Comics #1, and Howard Hughes set a new record by flying around the world in 91 hours.
Legend has it, in 1938, Thomas Hall, owner of multiple successful hotels in California, including the Hollywood Roosevelt, the Hollywood Plaza, and El Ranchos in Sacramento and Fresno, had his car break down in front of a vacant lot just outside of the Las Vegas city limits. While sitting on the side of the road in the desert sun watching traffic go by, he found himself thinking, what I wouldn't give to jump into a pool. This circumstance would be the inspiration for the El Rancho Vegas.
Some say that Hall counted cars that drove by while he was waiting for a tow truck, but according to Tom Hall's wife, Tom ended up commissioning a man to stand on a corner for a month and clock how many visitors drove by. The results actually sealed the deal of not only that there would be an El Rancho in Las Vegas, but there would be one built right there on Highway 91 instead of on Fremont Street with the rest of the casinos in town.
Yeah, another reason Hall decided to build on that corner of what today is Las Vegas Boulevard and Sahara, across the street to be exact, which meant he would avoid paying higher city taxes. In 1940, Thomas Hall purchased 33 to 57 acres of land for a reported $100 to $150 per acre on the corner of Highway 91 and San Francisco Avenue.
Yeah, the landowner, Mrs. Jessie Hunt, was so relieved to be getting rid of the acreage that she actually offered to give it to Hall, but Tom insisted on paying her for it, which, wow, that would have been amazing if he ended up getting it for free, huh?
I know, right? Now, Hall had grand plans. He wanted to build a vacation destination resort with everything you could ever want, encouraging guests to stay close to the property. The El Rancho would be the first property to offer a collection of retail shops, recreation, dining, and entertainment all in one place. He also wanted to make the El Rancho an oasis to the weary traveler, so he made sure the grounds had lush green landscapes.
Yeah, he knew that the last thing that people really wanted to see after driving in the desert all day was to see more desert.
Right. The original vision for the El Rancho Vegas didn't include a casino. The plan was simply to provide a comfort to people traveling from LA to Salt Lake City. The key attraction was going to be the swimming pool, which would be placed a few feet from the highway. Adding a casino was an afterthought. Hall apparently had trouble getting investors to see the potential in his project in Las Vegas because he had trouble getting financing. Even after the Army's Reconstruction Finance Corporation gave Hall about half of the projected $500,000, he had trouble getting the rest.
Yeah, the Army's Reconstruction Finance Corporation was an independent agency of the U.S. government at the time that gave billions of dollars in aid to state and local governments. And they also made loans to banks, railroads, and other businesses just in an effort to grow the economy. The concept was actually created by President Herbert Hoover during World War I, but President FDR merged the RFC with the FDIC as part of the New Deal.
Hall decided to build a scaled-down version of the other El Ranchos with the help of financing by Jim Cashman, a Texas connection and friend.
Yeah, Cashman was involved in several major developments in Nevada that actually helped shape the city's future. Most notably, he was a member of the League of the Southwest, which is credited with getting Congress to fund the Hoover Dam.
Now, Jim Cashman knew Thomas Hall from his many travels to L.A. Jim usually stayed at Tom's Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. Cashman was a big fan of Hall and wanted to bring something to Vegas in the scale of the El Ranchos.
Another legend says that the idea for the El Rancho Vegas happened when Thomas Hall and Jim Cashman were enjoying a few drinks at a sidewalk table on Fremont Street. Fremont Street had casinos and hotels at this time, but nothing like the resorts Hall ran in California. That morning, Fremont Street was so dead, Cashman remarked that Hall should build another hotel in Vegas and liven up the place. This is most likely the real origin of the idea to build the El Rancho.
Now, Hall hired L.A. architect Wayne McAllister, who designed the other El Ranchos for him.
Yeah, McAllister would go on to design other Vegas properties, including the Sands, Fremont, and Desert Inn.
The El Rancho's architecture was Spanish Mission. All of the buildings were painted white and designed to help reflect the desert sun's heat. The roof of the main building had brown shingles, while the cottages had red tile roofs. The bungalow and cottage-styled accommodations surrounded the casino building. Each cabin could be reached by car and offered a shaded porch, a kitchen, and a living dining room area. The property was kind of a dude ranch with a white, Western-styled wooden fence that ran alongside of the highway.
It also featured a waterfall running over native rock, a sprawling wagon trail, and riding stables. And then also several multicolored mosaics were featured throughout the property just to add to the motif.
The El Rancho's amenities included a beauty salon, outdoor barbecue areas, badminton courts, and a pool which was located right out front, just as legend said it was inspired to be. The property also owned a boat stationed on Lake Mead that could be chartered by guests if they were interested in going fishing or just boating. The El Rancho Vegas, the first hotel casino on the Las Vegas Strip, opened on April 3rd, 1941 with 110 rooms, making it the largest hotel in Vegas at that time. The casino opened with 2 blackjack tables, a roulette wheel, a craps table, and 70 slot machines.
Yeah, by comparison, casinos today tend to normally have about 2,000 slots. And Hull knew about hospitality, but he really didn't know anything about gambling, so he ended up subcontracting out the casino operations.
From day one, the El Rancho didn't have a dress code. On opening night, guests arrived in formal evening wear, and all of the staff were dressed in Western motif costumes.
Hull, the owner, arrived in blue jeans, boots, and a cowboy shirt, proclaiming to his guests, "Howdy, partners, come as you are."
Entertainment and dining options included the Chuck Wagon Buffet, the Stage Door Steakhouse, the Roundup Room, and the Nugget Nell Cocktail Lounge. The main dining room, the Roundup Room, also doubled as the primary entertainment option, and the best of the best were brought in to perform to attract high rollers.
Yeah, names like Sophie Tucker, Milton Berle, Buddy Hackett, Nat King Cole, Martin Lewis, and tons more could be seen at the El Rancho. The practice of going after big-name performers was replicated by all future properties and helped Las Vegas become known as the entertainment capital of the world.
The window coverings of the main resort were made with natural cowhide. The showroom featured stitched leather lampshades. The walls were made of brick, and the ceiling was open wood beams with wagon wheel chandeliers. The Chuck Wagon Buffet, which offered free breakfast from 4:15 to 6:30 a.m. and never charged for coffee, was ahead of its time.
The dining area could seat about 250 people, which was the largest in town at the time. However, it only offered Americana, devoid of options like Chinese, Italian, and Mexican, found in pretty much all buffets that you see today. The original concept behind the Vegas buffet was to cater to gamblers who were hungry but didn't want to take the time to sit down and have a meal. The buffet offered cold cuts so players could grab a quick sandwich and eat while playing.
The El Rancho used a 50-foot tall windmill located on top of the casino that could be seen for miles as its marquee. The resort name was spelled out in what looked like rope.
Yeah, and it was installed by the Nevada Electric Company of Las Vegas, who did pretty much all electric work on the project.
The windmill tower was also used to house the air conditioning units, which in those days were just huge ice machines with a circulation system that filtered the air throughout the complex.
At night, the windmill was lit up in neon, and another sign stood across the street with a neon arrow pointing at the El Rancho, just in case you missed the first one.
Nice. The property slogan was "Stop at the sign of the windmill." Now, another clever ploy to get people to stop at the property was the placement of the El Rancho gas station. If you were driving north along Highway 91, the first thing you would see wouldn't be the El Rancho Resort, but the El Rancho gas station.
Yeah, the real idea here is that people who are driving through town and just stopping for gas would see the El Rancho and become so interested that they would make sure to stay there the next time they had the opportunity.
The property quickly became the place Vegas residents would book for wedding parties and banquets. While the locals loved the place, many were skeptical that the El Rancho could be successful. But it was from day one. The property was doing so much business, even celebrities couldn't be guaranteed a table at the restaurants and showrooms. The El Rancho attempted to create an experience Disney is now famous for.
From the second you landed, you were greeted at the airport by a band and glad-handing cowboys. Guests loved it, and the VIP treatment continued the entire time you were at the property. The El Rancho wanted to create such a memorable experience that you really couldn't wait to come back.
At its peak of popularity, the El Rancho was known as Western America's finest resort. In 1942, the second casino resort was opened on the Las Vegas Strip, the Last Frontier. The Last Frontier was also themed in a Western motif, and the owners, Ari Griffith and William Moore, were experienced promoters and had connections to bring in star entertainment to the property. The Last Frontier took its Western theming to the next level by creating a rural West town that looked like something fresh off of a movie set.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, many of the buildings were actual remnants of Nevada's various ghost towns that were just relocated to the Last Frontier property.
While some would argue the Last Frontier poached the idea for a Western-themed resort in Vegas from the El Rancho, it isn't in dispute that Thomas Hall, not having the connections that Moore and Griffith did, stole away performers from the Last Frontier, sometimes offering as much as twice the salary they were earning at the Last Frontier if they would come perform at the El Rancho instead. Despite the property's great success, in 1943, Thomas Hall sold the El Rancho.
It isn't clear why, but some speculate that he didn't think the El Rancho could compete with the Last Frontier.
Now, after Hall sold the El Rancho, it changed hands several times, the first of which being Joe Drone, a colleague of Conrad Hilton, who was the founder of Hilton Hotels, purchased the property from Thomas Hall. 6 months later, he leased the El Rancho to William Wilkerson.
Yeah, Wilkerson paid Drone $50,000 for a 6-month lease. Leasing the casino operations was somewhat common in those days.
Yeah, owners would lease out the property to individuals for guaranteed money, while the leasee would run the casino for a time and have the potential to make back their money and more.
Yeah, Billy Wilkerson was looking to get into the Las Vegas market, but really didn't know much about running a casino or resort in Las Vegas. What better way than to run a successful property like the El Rancho? He was also hoping that running a casino would help satisfy his appetite for gambling and put an end to his ever-growing gambling debt, which at the time was estimated at over $1 million.
After Billy's 6-month stint running the El Rancho's casino, he went on to build the third casino resort on Highway 91, the Flamingo, at least until Bugsy Siegel muscled him out of the project. In 1944, the Will Maston Trio played at the El Rancho. It was the first time Sammy Davis Jr. performed on the Las Vegas Strip. In 1945, Wilbur Clark, who would go on to become the owner of Desert Inn, bought into the El Rancho. Like Billy before him, Clark leased the casino operations from the other owners. In late 1945, Clark, who was listed as a one-fourth owner of the property, filed a petition to have the property put in receivership because his partners, Joseph and Walter Gazzardi, were misappropriating money with questionable accounting practices. Of course, the Gazzardis countersued that Clark owed them money and was in violation of the contract the three had. Legal battles continued for years between the owners, with the Gazzardis eventually selling their stock back to previous owner Joe Drone. In 1946, the El Rancho instituted the Strip's first $1 buffet.
Yeah, this is an interesting fact, but $1 back in 1946 really is the equivalent of about $12 in 2011.
Right. In late 1946, when the Flamingo opened, its modern, luxurious decor sent shockwaves through Las Vegas, putting other properties on notice that times were changing.
Guests suddenly wanted a more sophisticated experience when they came to visit Las Vegas.
In 1947, the El Rancho introduced Lucky Silver, billed as the only gambling horse in the world.
This essentially equated to a horse positioned at a roulette table, being able to push a chip onto a number.
Nice. In 1948, the El Rancho announced new management, which included Jake Katleman and Guy McAfee.
Yeah, a little bit about Guy McAfee. He was actually an LA Vice Squad captain who owned saloons, brothels, and had ties to organized crime while he was captain, which helped to prevent his illegal practices from getting busted. In the 1930s, the new mayor of Los Angeles pledged to clean up the city, and in doing so discovered McAfee's operation, forcing him to resign and face legal action. Now, like many people busted for illegal gambling operations, McAfee relocated to Las Vegas where he could ply his trade legally. Over the years, he owned pieces of multiple casinos in Vegas, but is probably most famous for owning the Golden Nugget.
The owner carousel at the El Rancho stopped when the property landed in the hands of Beldon Katleman via inherited shares of the property received after his uncle Jake Katleman died in 1950. Beldon bought out the remaining shareholders and became the primary owner of the property. Beldon was exactly what the property needed: fresh ideas and new energy.
Yeah, acknowledging the new trend the Flamingo ushered in of the sophisticated visitor, Beldon invested $750,000 in renovating the property, as well as adding about 220 rooms. Beldon replaced the Western-style interior with a French provincial design. In 1951, the Roundup Room became the Opera House.
Yeah, the dining menu was even rethemed to fit the new opera motif, classifying meal options as curtain raisers, Act 1 and Act 2, overtures and encores.
Yeah, the casino also expanded to 18,000 square feet, making it the largest casino in Nevada at the time. The Stage Door Steakhouse began staying open 24 hours a day. and the property began offering year-round swimming, horseback riding, and golfing.
Yeah, Las Vegans could join the El Rancho Pool and Patio Club for $5 per month and have unlimited access to the facilities.
Yeah, Beldon also made entertainment the cornerstone of the El Rancho, hiring the best of the best.
Yeah, advertisements in the fabulous Las Vegas magazine, which is basically the 24/7 Vegas publication of the 1950s. The El Rancho always had the largest, most visible space in that magazine, usually on the inside front cover, and was always listed ahead of the Last Frontier.
The concept of the review was introduced to the Strip in 1952 after the remodeling was complete.
Yeah, this is a concept that would go on to be replicated all over the Strip. Now, with Beldon at the helm, the El Rancho became just as successful as it ever was. In 1956, Zsa Zsa Gabor passed on a movie role in favor of a residency at the El Rancho.
Yeah, it was actually reported that the studio was offering Gabor $100,000 to appear in a movie. The amount Beldon actually countered with is unknown to us.
Edie Gourmet and Steve Lawrence, better known as Steve and Edie, were married at the El Rancho in 1957. Shirley Bassey, famous for singing 3 Bond film theme songs, Goldfinger, Diamonds Are Forever, and Moonraker, made her American stage debut at the El Rancho in 1957. In 1947, the El Rancho had 22 buildings and 144 rooms. By 1960, they had 69 buildings and 220 rooms. But tragedy struck the El Rancho when the casino was destroyed by fire on June 17, 1960. Rumors immediately began that the fire was the work of arson for several reasons.
Yeah, first of which being no one was injured in the fire. County sheriff did comment that the fire was very hot, which is often a characteristic of an accelerant, and some claim that it was set by a man who was thrown out by management because he was known as a Chicago wise guy.
Ultimately, police ruled out arson as the cause and speculated that the fire started in the dressing rooms closest to the kitchen, possibly from costumes hanging too close to stove burners. Betty Grable was on stage at the cocktail lounge that night and spotted the flames.
She reportedly lost over $10,000 worth of costumes.
The fire spread throughout the structure within 20 minutes after it was first noticed.
Yeah, Vegas was also experiencing 40-mile-an-hour winds that day, and flames reportedly reached as high as 100 feet.
Much like the implosions of today, the fire became a spectacle that attracted a crowd.
Even at 5 in the morning, parents and their children were out to view the blaze.
An item of note lost in the fire, $417,000 in silver dollars, fused together from the intense heat of the fire. It only took an hour for the property to burn to the ground. Now, immediately after the fire, Beldon announced plans to rebuild the El Rancho, bigger and better.
Yeah, plans were said to be for a 6-story, 1,000-room resort, and even had a reopening day set for January 1st of 1964. However, plans to rebuild that never actually materialized.
The motel operation survived the fire, but it really struggled without a full-scale casino resort attached to it. In the late 1960s, Beldon put the El Rancho up for sale. In 1970, Howard Hughes purchased the 60 acres of land from Beldon for $7.5 million. In 1978, he demolished what was left of the old resort.
Parts of the old El Rancho resort were given to an amusement park outside of Henderson, known as the Old West Amusement Park, but that ended up closing in 1986.
Yeah, in 1982, the Thunderbird Hotel was rebranded the El Rancho Casino, but they were not affiliated with one another. Today, the Hilton Grand Vacation Club now occupies a portion of the land the El Rancho sat on, but it's largely just an empty lot. In 2000, it was announced that Bob Stupak, the owner and creator of the Stratosphere, with investors wanted to purchase the property with plans to build a Titanic resort complete with a fake iceberg casino and timeshare condos in the smokestacks. In late 2001, Bill Bennett, the man behind Circus Circus evolving into the Mandalay Resort Group and also the former Sahara owner, he bought the land.
Now, rumor was that Bennett had plans to build a new Sahara across the street and would build a walkway connecting the new building with the old one. But the cost of the required renovations to the old Sahara proved to be too much.
In 2007, MGM Resorts acquired the rights to the land and planned to develop it for a future casino resort.
Yeah, now rumors around this was that they were planning to build a city center north on that location.
While the land on the corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Sahara is often looked at for development, it has never been home to a casino property since the El Rancho. It's so interesting that the birthplace of the Strip is now barely considered to be a part of it. As times and tastes have changed, so is the center of the action on Las Vegas Boulevard. Much like people wanting to grow up to be a cowboy evolved into wanting to be an astronaut, the Western-themed resort in Las Vegas has evolved into the most opulent, technologically advanced resort complexes on the planet. Properties have come from costing $500,000 to costing multiple billions. And despite all these changes, the core ideas have remained the same as the day the El Rancho employed them. Create an experience unlike any other. A place that has everything a guest could ever want, all in one location. A place that your guests can't wait to return to. And that's the story of the El Rancho.